Township for a residential fire at Riverside Trail. White smoke coming out of the window. House is full of smoke seen from the outside and smells electrical. Central clear at 11:46.
It's a tragedy that has unveiled the darkness of the man who investigators say caused it.
Preliminary indications are that the fire was intentionally set in numerous different places throughout the residence on the interior of the home.
Police say he killed his wife.
Grand Haven Township for a residential fire at Riverside Trail. White smoke coming out of the window. House is full of smoke seen from the outside and smells electrical. Central clear at 11:46. That call went out over Ottawa County Dispatch on a Friday morning. 8 bodies were already inside. Not one of them died from the fire. Think of a smoke alarm still mounted to the hallway ceiling. Its test button never pressed, its battery never removed, yet it failed to wake a single person. Not because it was defective, but because the danger had already passed hours before the first flame. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Crime Files 9/11. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. The paperwork already knew. The official incident report from the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office reads like 2 separate tragedies stapled together. Page 1 describes a structure fire at 160 Riverside Trail, Grand Haven Township, dispatched at 11:46 a.m. on July 24. Page 3 adds a line that rewrites everything above it. Upon making entry, deputies located multiple deceased individuals. Fire suppression was initiated, but the fire is not the primary cause of the scene. The language bureaucrats used to say the fire was a cover-up is the same language they used to request overtime. The fire is not the primary cause. That sentence sat on a server inside the county IT building while reporters were still gathering for the first press conference. The paperwork already knew. Sheriff's investigators spent the first 48 hours telling the public what any arson investigator could have told them in the first 20 minutes. The fire had multiple points of origin, different rooms, different floors. In a house with 1 kitchen and 1 electrical panel, that's not an accident. That's a script. The preliminary investigation confirmed what the dispatch recording didn't mention. Smoke was pouring from windows, but no one inside was trying to escape. A body in a hallway can be explained by panic. A body in every bedroom cannot. When deputies cleared the house, they found 2 adults and 6 children. The children were still in their bedrooms.
Once inside the home, police say they found the entire family, all 8 members, dead.
Units made entry inside to battle the fire because there was smoke showing from the residence. When they got inside, they noticed that there was numerous people deceased inside the home. They then notified the sheriff's office and we began an investigation into that. So what I can tell you at this point is that 8 people are dead inside the home. There's 2 adults and 6 children.
That's a news conference per WZZM television in Michigan. As police investigated further, they say they realized something very dark may have happened before the fire.
Well, I can tell you that there's 2 adults in the residence as well. Some of the victims that we're calling victims inside the residence at this point did have gunshot wounds to their bodies. We don't have cause of death at this point. I don't know. I don't have 100% identification at this point. I can tell you that 2 adults and 6 children are deceased. We're pending further investigation and full autopsy results, which will be tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Any idea what caused the fire?
We're looking into that. We're being assisted by the Michigan State Police arson investigators to see if it was intentionally set. So they're here. They've been on scene for quite some time. We've had numerous units on scene trying to get to the bottom of both the fire and the deaths.
Can you confirm how many victims had gunshot wounds?
Not at this point. No, that'll be pending further autopsy and further investigation.
Is there any further ongoing threat to the public yet?
The fact that a parent would place a child in a room and then close the door is routine. The fact that a parent would then methodically move from room to room with a handgun and then light multiple fires is not routine. It's not even an anomaly. It's a domestic deployment of military logic.
We don't have that official report yet, but preliminary indications are that the fire was intentionally set in numerous different places throughout the residence on the interior of the home.
To this point, law enforcement believe that the violence could have started the night before and then the fire was carried out in the morning, but at this point it's unclear. Police say they recovered a handgun from the scene, and they also say there were multiple spots in the house where the fire was set. They are, though, still going through video evidence, trying to figure out a timeline of what happened. The sheriff was asked about Christopher's potential motive for allegedly taking the lives of his wife and their 6 kids.
The Ottawa County Medical Examiner's Office released its findings in a report dated July 27.
They shared what their investigation had found.
The deceased adults are Christopher Carowitz, age 47 of Grand Haven, and Amanda Carowitz, age 39 of Grand Haven. The couple were married. The 6 deceased Carowitz children's name will not be released at this time. These include males ages 15, 12, 11, and 5, and females age 11 and 11. 4 of the children were biological children, and 2 were adopted. After the postmortem autopsies, it was determined that the cause of death for all the subjects involved in this was ruled gunshot wounds, and the manner of death for Amanda and the 6 children was ruled homicide. The manner of death for Christopher has been ruled suicide.
Cause of death for all 8 individuals, gunshot wounds. Manner of death for Amanda Carowitz, age 39, and 6 children ranging from 5 to 50 feet, homicide. Manner of death for Christopher Carowitz, age 40-70, suicide. The report contains a detail that should stop anyone who reads it cold. The children were found in their beds. A 5-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, 2 11-year-old girls. The filing doesn't list their names. Michigan law shields child victim identities, but it doesn't shield what the autopsy suite saw. The shots were close range. The weapon, a handgun, was recovered near the adult male. The document is only 6 pages. It has the same font as the county's budget summary. It is not designed to make you feel anything. That's what makes it terrifying. Here is where the public record collides with the private record. Before the fire, Amanda Carowitz was posting in an online support group for spouses who had experienced infidelity. Under a username that investigators have since linked to her, she described discovering that her husband had been having an affair with a younger coworker, an intern, just as she had been when they met.
And I'm going to read it for you. Quote, "I feel you. My WH," and it appears she's using internet slang to talk about her husband, "literally cheated with a younger version of me, except way wilder than I ever was. When my H and I met, husband, I was the intern at the company we both worked for. He was divorced and older than me. Fast forward 10 years and 5 kids. He was cheating with the intern again, the same age I was when I was the intern. I was 5 babies in and actually not in bad physical shape, but I was in the trenches of little kids and just couldn't be who I was before. He had gotten a bonus literally days after D-Day, and I told him I was using it to pay off my credit card, to get Botox, Invisalign, hair extensions, and new clothes that made me feel pretty. I lost tons of weight during the aftermath, but guess what? I never felt better from those things. I still internally blamed myself for not being enough of what he wanted. After about a year of self-loathing, I remember crying and looking at myself in the mirror and realizing how up it was. I was the one who was living so miserably because of what he did. I finally realized that I had been the only person who ever showed up for myself my whole entire life. I didn't deserve to treat myself the way I had been. I decided to rewrite my brain as best as I could. I literally filled up journal upon journal upon journal with nice things about myself, even if I didn't believe them. I stopped dressing for him. I chose to dress for myself. I experimented with my natural curls and wore less makeup. I really leaned into the spiritual experience of getting to know and appreciate myself. It was the best thing I ever did for myself. Don't get me wrong. I sometimes still feel insecure. And 4.5 years out from D-Day, which appears to be the day she's talking about when she found out about this alleged affair, I still occasionally get triggers that suck me in. But my self-esteem is now able to withstand those triggers. Instead of resorting to, "I'm the worst, I hate myself," I now find my internal dialogue being more, "I don't deserve this. Why am I still living like this?" type talk. She goes on to say the most ironic thing about it is that now my WH finds my self-confidence to be super attractive. I mean, I think he finds it a little scary too, because he knows that I now know I deserve better than what he gave me in the past.
She wrote that it nearly split them up, that they went to marriage counseling, that she worked to rebuild her self-esteem. "I still occasionally get triggers," she posted, "but my self-esteem is now able to withstand those triggers." The posts are timestamped 2024. By July 2025, Christopher Carowitz was no longer employed by the American Heart Association, where he had worked as a national vice president. The organization confirmed his employment ended earlier that month, but declined to say why. That timeline: infidelity disclosure, then a period of apparent reconciliation, then sudden job loss, then massacre, is not a psychological profile. It's a sequence that would make any detective stop tapping his pen. But the public record does not contain a single protective order. Not one call for domestic disturbance at that address. No prior police reports. The same county that files paperwork for every loose dog and expired registration had nothing on the Carowitz household. That absence is its own kind of evidence.
But yeah, sometimes people just get to a point where they snap. He's, done bad things. Apparently he, met her when she was much younger and she was working for him, or she was an intern and did it again. That does not equate to violence. That does not equate to an automatic, mathematical formula that he would become violent. But again, maybe she saw it. Maybe that's why she stayed with him. You never know what's going on in someone's head and someone's heart. And gosh, the hard thing for all of us is, like you said, this is unpredictable. Had there been TPOs or restraining orders, not only was it predictable, but then there's somebody else to blame. The system could have protected her better. The judge could have issued a harsher sentence or a more lengthy restraining order, but there's nothing like that. I mean, how?
It means either the violence was never threatened, or it was threatened in a way that didn't leave a paper trail. The sheriff's office told reporters there were no known triggers. That answer is technically true. It is also technically empty. The paperwork already knew. At this point, you might ask if a man murders his entire family inside a suburban home and then burns the rooms one by one. Is that still a family annihilation, or is it a staged exit? The difference matters because the arson, multiple points of origin, wasn't just a suicide note written in gasoline. It was a message sent to the responding units. It said, look at the flames, not at us. It said arrive for a fire, not a crime scene. It bought time. Not much, but enough for the smoke to do what he couldn't do himself. Erase the evidence that would explain why. Here's the question that turns this from a local horror into something that should make every neighbor pick up the phone the next time a house smells like smoke. How many hours passed between the first gunshot and the first match? And who else smelled something before the fire but didn't call? The sheriff's timeline is deliberately vague. The violence could have started the night before. Investigators said, and then the fire was carried out in the morning. That means the children may have been killed while it was still dark. The fire was lit after sunrise. For a window of several hours, a house with 8 bodies sat silent on a street where other families were eating breakfast. One neighbor did report smelling smoke earlier that morning. The 911 log notes a call about an odor, but no one called to report the silence. No one called to say they hadn't seen the kids. The American Heart Association, where Christopher Carowitz had spent years building his professional reputation, released a statement calling him a former staff member and expressing condolences. It read like an HR memo. It probably was. The Ottawa County incident report is public. The autopsy summary is public. The Annihilation dispatch log is public. What is not public is what Amanda Carowitz may have told her therapist, her friends, or her Reddit group that could have foreshadowed what was coming. Her posts on the infidelity forum, which several news outlets have verified, but which law enforcement has not officially entered into the record, describe a woman who realized she deserved better, who was learning to trust her own judgment, who wrote, "He knows that I now know I deserve better than what he gave me." In the context of what followed, that sentence is either a declaration of independence or a countdown. It's impossible to read it now without wanting to rewind the tape, to tell her that the therapist's warning, even if things are good, this is forever a part of your spouse's psyche, was more literal than anyone could afford to believe. Let's isolate the hard evidence. The scene, 8 deceased, gunshot wounds, bodies in bedrooms. The weapon, a single handgun recovered. The fire intentionally set in multiple locations. The suspect dead by suicide. The motive officially undetermined. The sheriff said,
life.
Well, there's, no prosecution that takes place. When the suspect is also deceased, there's no prosecution that takes place, but it doesn't change in the fact that we're trying to get answers for family. We're trying to get answers for the community. We're trying to get answers for our own responders. And the only way to get those answers is to do a full, fair, thorough, detailed, complete investigation. It's not always fast, but to do a fair and thorough and detailed investigation gives those answers to family, to neighbors, to the community, to the responders that went there. So that takes some.
There's no prosecution that takes place when the suspect is also deceased. But it doesn't change the fact that we're trying to get answers for family, for the community, for our own responders. That statement, delivered at a press conference, is the sound of an agency finishing a case it can never close. Because the only person who could explain why a national sales executive, a father of 6, a man who posted beach photos with his kids, would execute his entire family and then burn the house down is dead. And the answers he took with him aren't inside the fire report. They're inside the gap between his professional resume and the redacted names of his children on an autopsy file.
And unfortunately for the public and for family members, there's no way to really exact that justice from him. He killed himself, so there's not even a chance to ask him why or to try to get out of him why. We try to see him be remorseful or pay a penance. That's it. It's over. Why is the only question left.
And that brings us to the document you can read tonight. The Ottawa County Sheriff's Office has released the initial incident summary, including the dispatch timeline, the preliminary fire investigation findings, and the medical examiner's cause and manner of death determinations. You can access it through the county records portal or via a FOIA request. When you read it, I want you to look at the timestamp of the first 911 call and the timestamp of the deputy's entry into the residence. Then I want you to ask yourself one question. During those minutes, While the house was filling with white smoke that smelled electrical, what was the fire destroying that we'll never see? Go find the report. Answer that question in the comments. The paperwork already knew.
Yeah, well, just based on what you just said, first of all, if you were to say, I want to come up with a checklist of the most sympathetic victims of a horrific crime, right? This would check all the boxes. Children, faithful wife, mother, a saint pretty much as far as a parent, number one. Number two, there are signals. You can never predict this, and you never want to victim blame, and you never want to say, well, things could have been different had she. But, you look back at it and, gosh, so they met when she was an intern and he was much older and divorced, and then he had an affair with somebody similar to that years later. And then she said, I want to stay in the marriage for the sake of the children, which, these are all things we hear all day long, but, sort of like that perfect storm or death of 1,000 cuts. There are all these factors that keep coming into it. Then she was talking about it, or she was talking about how to overcome it. And she was in private groups talking about, and maybe therapeutic for her, how do you survive adultery? How do you survive an affair in your relationship? All these things coming together, and his instability, maybe having multiple affairs, maybe, just losing his job. We don't know why. All these things come together, and it just points out one thing. Human beings are unpredictable and have dark sides to them. And this, deepest, darkest, and she had no idea she was, that he was like that, or she would have gotten out a lot sooner, I'm sure. She thought he was a bad guy, he cheated, he lost his job, but God knows what was going on in his mind, and unfortunately, it's a lot worse than anybody knew, especially her.
Yeah, when you say just a list of the most sympathetic victims, like even Mandy, like she was a substitute teacher. You can see that she was just a great mom to, between 5 and 15, you have 6 kids. 2 of the children were adopted, had just taken, it appears, those 2 kids on a trip to China. And it's just, it's hard when you look at the social media posts in so many of these cases, because you just kind of see the type of people, that they were. And
if you want more investigations that start where the headlines stop, like this video, share it with someone who needs to see how evidence speaks long after the sirens fade. Subscribe to Crime Files 911 and turn on notifications, because the next file is already waiting.